If you've ever played team sport and all the guys are sold and bought, we can do something that's never happened before.
Right.
Let's go do it. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. The signs were up. You will be arrested if you come on the field.
You'll be arrested.
So I don't blame the
waterboarded.
I don't blame the students for not going out there and testing it because they were ready to arrest whoever came out.
Yeah.
So obviously that is something that we don't do here in Florida. No. So I'm not going to suggest it anymore.
Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Yours was not as good as mine. There's no way it was. I had one of the best weekends that you could possibly imagine, from Thursday night at the Swamp with my oldest daughter, Jennifer, and her husband, Patrick, surprising me. That was a stunner, man. I had no idea they were coming in from L.A., to Friday and the Gator basketball game, obviously the Gator football game Saturday, the party that Karen and Jill Andreu threw for Robbie and I. Just an amazing, amazing weekend. Coach was there. Shane Matthews came by, so we had the whole podcast group there. We had a good time, and just really appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody's kind wishes. I got a lot of texts and emails and other stuff, but appreciate everybody. But now that's over. I found that out like the Sunday. I was like, something happened, and I went, oh, it's not my birthday. I can't get away with this anymore. So, all right. Coach Spurrier will be on today, as will Robbie Andreu. We've been talking a lot about my 400th episode. I did swing for the fences, and that will be done later, I've been told. You can imagine I swung left-handed, so I would tell you who. And somebody's made the suggestion, and it was a great one. Why don't you get Mick Hubert on for your 400th episode? I went, that's perfect. Everybody's been asking me, how's Mick doing? What's going on with him? He's watching all this from afar and everything. And so Mick Hubert is going to be on Thursday. We're trying to get some technical issues resolved with him, but hopefully it'll be no problem, and that'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait to talk to him. I haven't talked to him much since he left. A couple of times I have, but so he'll be the guest on our 400th episode, which will be Thursday from the Ponderosa. All right, let's get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting five. Excited about the Gainesville Quarterback Club all the time, but especially Tuesday night. Graham Mertz is going to be the guest speaker. That is going to be a blast, and can't wait for that. And then, of course, the guest speaker the last week, or not the last week because they have the high school thing, but the penultimate week is Carlos Alvarez. So that's a great option if you want to get a 3-week deal to come to all the things they are offering that at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. All right, let's get to our number one on our Gainesville Quarterback Club. I get an itchy nose. Go away, itchy nose. And that is, okay, what a night it was. I mean, it was just an unbelievable night for the Gators, Saturday night in the Swamp. And you say Saturday night, but I mean, the game started in the day, but it felt like a night game. It feels like it gets darker faster in the stadium, I guess maybe because it's sunken down. But it certainly was a crazy crowd, and just the kind of game that Florida needed. And it goes back to, you just don't, from week to week, you don't know what you have. Some teams do, and it's very rare when you do. But week to week, you don't know what you got. You went into that game, I will say this. I said to Jeff off the air on Friday, I said, I got a bad feeling they're going to get slammed because I think LSU's receivers, and again, what's the last thing in my mind? The Texas game. Obviously, I was way wrong on that. Florida had a great game plan. And they certainly got it done. But mainly it was the defense making those stands over and over to give up for the other team to have the ball almost the entire game. It was a 23-minute difference in time of possession. 41-something, I think they had it. To do that and then to be able and hold them to 16 points, that was a heck of a performance by the defense. Getting all those stops. I know there were some they didn't get. They didn't get a lot of third down stops. There were a couple fourth downs that you kind of shook your head, but they always either held into a field goal in the one play, and that was a great play by Nussmeier. But the defense was incredible. Tyreek Sapp, man. You talk about Tyreek Sapp and Caleb Douglas. It was almost like they became different players. Now, it's not like they haven't been good before. I said Caleb Douglas, didn't I? It's Caleb Banks, of course. Caleb Douglas is a wide receiver that plays, I think, for Texas Tech. And I do that all the time. But Caleb Banks, both those guys really I don't know. It was like they had something that came into them. Now, I will say this. LSU's 6-4 for a reason. I'll talk about it in a minute. Their culture, they have some culture issues there. Let's just put it that way. And you saw you saw some issues on the sideline, which we'll talk about. But look, Florida's hung in there. Those guys have played hard for each other, and they've kept playing, and they were inspired maybe by Coach Spurrier. We'll talk about that when he gets in here. But they certainly played an elite football game. Now, they weren't playing against the greatest team in the world. That's why they're 6-4, and they've not been able to finish games in a lot of cases. All year they've had a trouble. Remember after the first game, he banged on the table, and Brian Kelly did, and because they didn't finish, and then they've not done it again. They've finished some games, but not all games, and so that's where they are. But I don't care about them; they're not my problem. My issue is only with Florida and how well they played. So I looked like a really good football team Saturday night. The turnover or the penalties were an issue early, especially, and there were a couple late that were very frustrating. But the one drive where they went backwards when they should have been a touchdown drive. Look, in every game there are flaws, and you just have to overcome your mistakes. People make mistakes. You try to make as few as possible. It's all about execution. You know all those words. All right, let's get to number 2 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5, and that was DJ Lagway and the performance he had. It was pretty clear early in the game, and certainly in the second half, that LSU knew he's not going to scramble. He's not going to run the read option. Focus on the tailbacks, although they still did pretty good work. And don't worry about him scrambling out. Rush from the ends and go wide, and then he's not going to be able to step up because the hamstring is still not 100%, and he doesn't want to hurt it again. He knows the game's over if he goes out of the game. So let's make it difficult for him, and that's what they did. And he responded. Now, there were some throws that were terrible. 2 that could have been picks, but there were some dimes. Obviously, a couple of them to Badger were incredible down the sideline. The 2 down the end zone were amazing. The one that got in, the one that got to the 1-yard line. He was good. He was exactly what he needed to be. And he was, obviously given the stop sign, don't run. And once they knew that, you were worried about what they could find out. But this goes back to what I was talking about earlier with culture. And we know this, everybody's seen this by now, but when Chris Hilton comes off after jumping before he should have jumped and starts to walk away and Kelly starts screaming, I mean, you can read his lips. It's, what he's saying to him. And, you're uncoachable is one thing he said. Used a curse word. There's nothing wrong with cursing on the sideline, okay? But I just think that I don't know that he's handled adversity as well as Billy Napier. Let's just put it that way. Billy Napier's done a great job with it. And then there was I'm blanking on his name. The wide receiver. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, he comes off the field at one point. Kyron Lacey. And you can see that the alert in Brian Kelly's eyes, and they're like, what did you say to me? So clearly there's a culture issue there. They're having questions about their coach. Their coaches having questions about them. But again, they're not my problem. All right, let's go on to number 3 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club, starting 5, and that would be, look, the effects of that game have already been felt because on Sunday, a quarterback named Tramel Jones, who is from Mandarin and is a 4-star, could be a 5-star by the time they finalize the rankings. he flipped his commit. Now, I will say this. He dumped FSU when they got rid of their offensive coordinator. That's why that was a questionable move on my part. And in hindsight, it's more questionable than foresight. I thought about the time. It seems like it's why you aren't going to get fired. So why do you need to make a move like this? Like you're going to show the fan base something? I don't understand why that is. But also, it could affect your recruiting, and it did. I mean that he's decided to come to Florida now. Now again, I'm not going to put too much stock in anybody who's decided to come to Florida until they sign and show up here and then stay here. But it's certainly, I think, the first step in what could be many steps. And certainly that game had a lot to do with it. People watching it on TV, people in there, they had a huge group of recruits in there. And that effect of that is going to be felt, I think, for a while. Now, what you can't do is go out and lay an egg the following week against Ole Miss. All you're doing is go to the SIP then, So, but I think they'll play hard. We'll talk more about that game as we go forward. But certainly a good weekend for Billy Napier. I don't think there's much doubt about that. All right, let's get to number 4 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5, and that was the other college football was played. There were a lot of good games, I should say, and I enjoyed watching them all. Had TVs up going all night. Georgia clearly is back now. I mean, I don't know where they went, but Kirby Smart plays that disrespect card more than Rodney Dangerfield. Hey, tell you I get no respect, but yeah, the committee left them out, but they also knew they were playing Tennessee this week. Look, you don't think that goes into it when the committees are doing these things and they're coming out every week and they know there's going to be a lot of scrutiny of it, and they're going, hey, look, we can leave Georgia out. And then if they beat Tennessee, put them back in. And if they don't beat Tennessee, they've got 3 losses, they're done anyway. I guarantee you that conversation took place. But so calm down, buddy. Certainly the Oregon game, I was thinking what a shuffle there's going to be in the whole landscape when Oregon was at Wisconsin and struggling to win that game, and it pulled it out. Bunch of field goals in that game. So there were a lot of good games to watch for what I talked about was not a great weekend. There was still a lot of fun games to watch, and there were some upsets, and certainly Kansas State losing and Boise State losing. Watched that game too. So there was a lot of things going on, and we'll get to our Christine and Steve Wendig present the 12 in just a little bit to talk about what our version of the 12 would be right now if the season ended today. Let's move along to number 5 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. I want to talk about Florida basketball. I know that it's and look, football is what makes the world go round, but Florida basketball, what a way to start the weekend. For me personally, it was. Florida, with all that Todd Golden's going through, and again, I don't know what's true, what's not true. I'm not going to comment on that part. But he is obviously dealing with a lot. And maybe, again, I'm not going to talk about that part of it, okay? But for them to go out there and play like that and played really well, obviously it got a little dicey there for a while when they cut it to, I think, 5, and then Florida went ahead and pulled away. But, look, Walter Clayton is obviously poised to have a big year. He's 25, the other night in that game. And, Elijah Martin had 17. The kid from Slovenia, Urban, played, had a basket. So, I mean, they just are going to be able to throw a lot at you. I just love the way they played. Now, I don't know how good FSU is going to be this year. Last year, when they blew them out at home, we thought, oh, man, that's really going to help them down the road. It didn't help them because FSU ended up 9. Well, they have 9 wins last year, I think it was. So, yeah, they've got, we'll see. You kind of root for FSU the rest of the year because that's the better your win is, the more they win. I don't want to start looking at net rankings. I'm not going to look at them until after the first of the year. I have a tendency to do that, but because I get all excited when they win a big game. But no, I want them, just get back to the tournament. But hey, they're off to a good start, and we'll see where they're ranked. Well, I totally skipped over this when I was at on number 4 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5, and that was the Heisman and the Biletnikoff Awards. Now, those are 2 things that I vote on. A couple other things I vote on, but those are the 2 big ones for me. The Biletnikoff first ballot was due yesterday, and I got it in, or I think it's due today. But you just vote for 10 guys there, and I put Elijah Badger on that as a write-in candidate. He's not on there. I just put him in there just so he can say I got votes. Okay, but I mean, I think he's had that kind of a year. Obviously, when your team is not playing really well and they're 5-5, as we know, you're not going to be up for as many awards. That's why when a guy says this is a team award, I'm going, you're right. Heisman's are always team awards. Always. They're not all just individual awards, but they're team awards. You win it. You don't win it if your team stinks. And that was the thing, and I wanted to get to that point it feels like Travis Hunter's almost clinched the Heisman Trophy, and I would bet a lot of people have never seen him play. But it's hard to miss him because he's on the field for every play, offense and defense, it feels like. I'm still, going to wait and see what I think, but he's right near the top, maybe, if he's not the top guy. And when I had this discussion with Chris Harry about 5 weeks ago, we were out one night, and I was saying, no, actually, we were at my house. We were watching a game. And I said, look, they're going to end up like 7-5. This isn't like Paul Horning. You can't win the Heisman if your team's not good. Now they could end up playing for the Big 12 championship and maybe get into the playoffs. And right now, I have them in the playoffs. There's a little hint of what I've got. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see. Look, Cam Ward looked like he had that thing wrapped up in my mind, but that's why you never know. Travis Hunter gave up a touchdown in that game. It was the first one all year. Maybe he got tired. Maybe he's going to have some bad games going forward. But I don't know. You just got to watch it all, let it all take place, including the championships games. Guys who vote before him, I think, should have their votes rescinded. But that's the biggest game of the year, your championship game. I mean, you're going to have bigger games, but that's the biggest game to that point. It should count. Anyway, we can have that discussion later. All right, that's going to do it for our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. Don't forget Graham Mertz, the speaker Tuesday night. If you want to go over there and join, it's a great idea. And boy, what a combo you get with Graham Mertz and then Carlos Alvarez as speakers, and you get to see me too. That's the best part. Not really. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back with Coach Spurrier. That's the best part of our show when we return on another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. And, of course, Meldon Law also sponsors Monday appearances by Coach Spurrier. We love that part of our show always. And, Coach, we're giving you a little bit of credit for that win Saturday night. You got the boys fired up, didn't you?
I tell you what, Pat, I was flying back from Tulsa. My son coaches the University of Tulsa. So we watched them play Thursday night.
Yep.
In fact, Dan Mullen helped do the game out there, broadcasting and so forth. And I started thinking, what can we do to give our team a little extra incentive to play the game? And something that's never happened at the University of Florida, ever. The stadium was built in 1930. And later we started calling it the Swamp when I started coaching here in the 90s. But there's never been a rush the field, or as I call it, swarm the swamp, after we win a game.
Yep.
And I said, maybe the team knew that, hey, we're going to rush the field, first time in school history, 94 years, might give us a little incentive and this, that, and the other. So we were here at the restaurant, and everybody had their cell phones, and I'm up there talking. So I threw it out. I said, why don't we, rush the field or swarm the swamp after the game, because it's never been done before. Give our guys a little extra juice, a little extra momentum. But anyway, Billy Napier in his press conference.
Then you came to our party, at our birthday party, and said it there too.
I relayed it around, and hoping that
people knew about it.
Hoping it could encourage our team.
Yeah.
I mean, running in the swamp's no big deal unless it brings enthusiasm, emotion, and a little something extra. If you've ever played team sport and all the guys are sold and bought, we can do something that's never happened before.
Right.
Let's go do it. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. The signs were up. You will be arrested if you come on the field.
You'll be arrested.
So I don't blame the
waterboarded.
I don't blame the students for not going out there and testing it, because they were ready to arrest whoever came out.
Yeah.
So obviously that is something that we don't do here in Florida. No. So I'm not going to suggest it anymore.
But it did give. I mean, Napier said it gave him some juice.
Billy Napier said it gave the guys a little extra juice. And it would have given me juice if I was on a team that had to do something that never happened before. I remember Coach Ellenson. He was our motivational coach when I played here. And then when I came to coach here in the 90s, I said, Coach, I need you one game a season. Mm-hmm. Probably going to be the Georgia game, but it might be another one.
Yep.
And the Georgia game, we didn't need him. We were so much better than them. I said, just keep it light. So he kept it light. But then I brought him in for the FSU game in 91. We hadn't beaten him in 5 years, I think. And he had these pins out. Florida had never won 10 games in a season. And our team had a chance. If we beat FSU, we're going to be 10-1, first time in school history. So another level. And he passed out all those pins. Another level.
Yep.
Fellas, we got a chance to hit another level. So our team the other night had a chance. Well, they did their part. We beat LSU. The national radio and TV guys said this was Florida's best game of the year. The effort was better. Just played real well. The fans acted as if this was for SEC championship. The fans were going crazy. They were loud. Oh, it was super support by our fans. So it was a good night for the Gators.
Yeah, absolutely it was. I want to ask you about DJ Lagway because, I mean, clearly – LSU, after a while, knew he wasn't going to run the ball. Okay, he's not going to run it on the read option. He's not going to scramble. They've shut that part of him down. So he had to make some tough throws, and they were just coming at him. They kept coming around the ends, and he really had a hard time stepping up into the pocket. But then that one play down to the one, he did do that.
Yeah, he made two beautiful throws, and then Ba, our running back, made the run to put the game away. So it was, DJ Lagway is a big-time talent, and he's such a good player also and a good guy.
Yeah.
And players love playing for him and so forth. So it's going to be interesting this week. Ole Miss is, I guess, the highest ranked team we've played since Georgia or whatever, and so we're looking forward to trying to beat Ole Miss this week.
Well, and there's a level of excitement in the whole program now. I think it's come back, and again, that's what college football can be, is week to week. 1 week you're the worst coach, and next week you're the best coach. And, but that's just the way it goes. I mean, somebody's winning, somebody's losing every game.
Yeah.
There's no more ties.
And whatever you can do to get the team up for games is what coaches. That's what we try to do, and I think our guys will be up again this week because the way we played against LSU. If our third down defense had been decent.
Yeah. Well,
they were
LSU
8
for 12 in the first half. I think.
They made. Oh God, they made 3 straight 3rd and 9s.
But they made a couple of 4th downs too.
Yeah, but they did not run on us, and our defense held in there. Gosh, we held them to 16 points. That's good enough right there. So defense played well, and with a few more 3rd down stops, it would have been a fantastic defensive game. So we're capable. That's what I'm saying. This team's capable, and most all the guys are back next year. So if we can finish strong, it'll be something to really build on going into next year.
You had to love those early in the game. There were 2 big tackles, where they hit that swing pass, and guys went up there and made great tackles, and you're just like, those are the tackles they missed at Texas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We weren't really we're sort of in mediocrity a little bit, and they said, wait a minute, we can play and we can play well. Now let's go do it, and let's do it again this week against Ole Miss.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to some of the other games, I did want to go to our Campus USA play of the weekend. And, of course, Coach Spurrier is a sponsor for Campus USA as well, spokesperson. And there it is, Jaden Baugh. And, man, I knew the guy could run, but I didn't know he was that fast. I mean, he just blew by that guy. And it was really well blocked, but he had to make one guy miss. Every running play, you got to make one guy miss, don't you?
Usually somewhere you got to make a guy miss. But that was a game that put us in good shape. But we still had to hold on.
Yep.
There was still a lot of time in the 4th quarter, and our defense.
See, right here, he's got to make that one guy right there miss.
Make the stops. That guy took a bad angle there.
Yep. And that was a good cutback, though. But, the speed. He's really something. I mean, we're looking at, again, it was the 2 freshmen were the 2 big stars on offense.
Yeah.
That's a good sign of where you are. And I remember when they signed Jaden Baugh, wasn't that big a deal. I mean, but, he's turned into a good player.
He really has. And number 6,
Shamar James. Badger.
Badger. Yeah. I knew both of them start with a B. He had some big-time catches. Those 2, one for a touchdown and one to the 1-yard line. Yeah. Outstanding game, those players.
Yeah. I thought there were a lot of guys that really played well, and that's the thing. When you play, it was a team win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the best wins are when everybody on the team contributes.
That's right.
Even the one time they had to cover a kickoff, they pinned them back, inside the 20s. So
Trey Smack made all his field goals.
55 yards.
Yeah.
But let's get to some of the other games too, because I'm sure you got home to watch that Georgia-Tennessee game. I was asking Robbie who were we rooting for, and we couldn't figure it out. We just had to watched it to watch it,
Well, it's going to make it interesting because of so many teams with 2 losses in the SEC. I heard one of the radio guys just a minute ago say, why is Texas ranked so high? Because they really only beaten one ranked team, I think, all year.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting how it all plays out, and there's still, 2 or 3 weeks left.
Well, that's the thing. It's it's some eye tests, it's some stats. It depends on what every voter on that group's got, as his main criteria. It could be head-to-head, but eventually all the head-to-heads are going to balance out. And it's going to be really interesting to see who ends up in the SEC title game now. Because I would assume it's going to be either Texas or A&M. I would think the loser's not going to be there. And now Georgia could end up back in there. They've got that,
They did beat Texas.
Yeah,
they did beat Texas and Tennessee.
They could end up back in there and end up playing and getting to the playoffs after a week ago. Of course, a week ago, Kirby Smart couldn't coach.
Yeah, and Alabama could get right back in.
That's
too.
right. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating down the stretch. And this goes back to what I said earlier, back when everybody was saying, well, it's going to diminish the regular season games. What are you talking about? You got 12 teams now that get a chance. 4 teams that really want to have byes. Other teams that want to have home field. There are more important games now than there have ever been.
Oh, there's no question the interest in college football, and really, to me, it's a lot like pro football now. Every game's so close.
Yeah.
The game last night, Cincinnati and
Chargers.
the Chargers, Harbaugh's team went down the wire. It was 27-all, and then
They got a touchdown
the Chargers,
late,
scored a touchdown late. So many games are like that, and that's what
Except the
fans
Jaguar
and
games.
Jags really look bad now.
Wow.
They sort of tossed in the towel in that game. But anyway, close games is what people love to watch and see.
Well, they do, and they like to watch big games too. And that's
Games that are important.
The
They mean a
the
lot.
bigger the game, the more fun it'll be. I want to go back to the Florida game, and I mean, there's a lot that's come out about Brian Kelly this week because of. Sorry, I got something in my eye there. One of his players came off the field, and he started yelling at him and said, basically, "You're uncoachable." I mean, I can't imagine saying that. And I heard this announcer saying this on Sunday. The way Billy Napier's dealt with adversity versus the way Brian Kelly's dealt with adversity, they're very different, aren't they?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was just watching the post-game press conference, and he said, "I've got to start doing more," as if my assistant coaches aren't doing their jobs. I got to start doing more. But even during the game, the TV, they show the head coach on the sideline.
Yeah.
And he was over there getting on his quarterback and some other guys and blah, 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 blah. I learned way back, if I had to get on the quarterback, come here. And I'd look into the ground and say, "You got to start playing a lot damn better. We're going to get our ass beat here." Something like that. And without getting in his face. And now get back in there and do it. And then give him a pat on the back. But he didn't. He'd get in her face a little bit, which I don't know. Usually you don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there that aren't real happy with him. But certainly there are a lot of people out there that are happy with where they are right now. We'll see the big reveal again tomorrow. Again, does it really matter? Yeah, it's interesting. It's something to talk about. But it can change so rapidly. I mean, somebody's got to win some of these games, and somebody's got to lose them all going forward. And certainly the SEC is going to be – I mean, I can't imagine anybody would rather watch any other conference but the SEC right now.
Yeah, well, the Big Ten, they got teams up there with just
but they don't have the
loss.
depth. They don't have like that second tier.
No, their wins are not impressive,
Yeah.
But I don't know what the committee will do. I've said all along that whoever finishes 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, they're going to be complaining that we should be in the playoffs.
No matter what,
sort of like FSU last year. I mean, gosh, they went 12-0. They probably should have been in.
13-0, actually. Yeah, because they won their
a conference game. That's right. They were 13-0.
With their backup quarterback. But then he got hurt in that game, too.
So they won't have to worry about making it this year.
I don't think so.
I
don't think
squeezed out.
I don't think 9 losses are going to get you in, but we'll see how all that goes. It's going to be interesting, certainly going forward, and with all these games that are coming up. And I know that you have to be happy about your one other former team, the Gamecocks, and how well they played.
Yeah,
they are. I thought Missouri was going to do it again when they scored there to go up.
Unbelievable.
30 to what? What was it? 30 to 28? 30 to 27?
Missouri had won 4 games this year, last possession.
Last possession, yeah.
And they look like they're going to win 5. And South Carolina put a drive on.
That was a great drive.
Yeah, their quarterback,
Norris.
DeSellers.
Norris
Sellers.
Yeah, Lenore, yeah.
There, we almost got it right.
Yeah, Norris Sellers. He broke that tackle and completed about a 3rd and 18 pass or something like that, and then he went down and scored. So, South Carolina, they got 7 wins, and a big game with Clemson coming up here pretty soon. So that one will be important.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see where they are on the rank, because what are they, 7-3 now?
Yeah.
So, and they've got some really quality. I think they've got more top 25 wins than I know than Texas.
Some other teams.
Several other teams. So they're playing awfully well. I tell you what, it's a good year not to be playing South Carolina. I mean, at first I was disappointed Florida wasn't playing because you're used to that every year. But now maybe it's not a bad idea not to have to play him this year or next year, because he's doing a pretty good job there.
They've done a good job of what they call developing the roster. Their NIL, they can spend money there, and they've got a lot of good ball players, as you can tell when you watch them play, offense and defense. So they're capable of beating anybody they play. They really are.
By the way, I was going to ask you this. This has nothing to do with college football, but there was a story last night that broke that Mike Florio was saying that that Belichick's going to come back and coach the Jaguars. That there's a package deal with the GM and Belichick, and I'm like, man, that feels like you're walking into a dead job. That is nobody can win. Everybody has a hard time winning there. I mean, Urban, man, nobody flamed out worse than he did.
Yeah, the Jags, preseason, I think they might have had the best record of anybody.
I think they were 4-0, yeah.
Yeah, 4-0, 3-1, or something like that. And then they lost so many close games.
Yeah.
Now it's just, what Vince Lombardi once said, winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. Yep. They're just in a dang losing habit right now. But they got a lot of good players, and they usually play everybody close until yesterday.
Yeah,
and then they were completely beaten by probably the best team in the league right now. Detroit Lions appear to be the best team.
Yeah, you know who's not the best team is a team that we thought was going to be the best team, and that's the 49ers. I don't know where your old team's gone, man. They just can't find a way to win games.
Yeah, they're not quite as good as they hope to be. Yeah. But, you try to make the playoffs and then make you run in the playoffs.
That's exactly
right. That's the way the NFL pretty much is, except for a few teams. Buffalo, Kansas City are probably at the top after Detroit Lions. Those are probably the three best.
Yeah, that was a good game. Yesterday as well. All
Mm-hmm.
right, Coach, you got anything else for us?
Oh, I think that's about it. Just looking forward to Ole Miss coming in. It's a noon game.
Yep.
So everybody get rested up. But I want to give a shout out to our students and our fans for the way they did their part to help us win the game. They were yelling and screaming as loud as I can remember.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a couple of games I was comparing it to, whether it was the Auburn game a few years ago or the 91 FSU game, and of course 97 FSU game got pretty loud too.
I heard one of the local people say it was the loudest since Billy's first game against Utah.
Yeah.
3 years ago, the game against Utah, everybody was yelling and screaming pretty good. And it was one of the loudest swamp days in a long time, put it that way.
Certainly was really exciting, and it was a fun day. And it was a fun finish to my birthday weekend. It was a lot of fun. So we had a great time. All right. Coach Spurrier will take out of here, and we'll be back with Robbie Andreu for Yes, No, Where, Maybe right after we take this break on another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great. Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It's always a great pleasure to go to our Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line and bring in the great Robbie Andreu. My daughter surprised me. That was really cool. And, obviously Friday night basketball was good. Saturday football was excellent as well, and a lot of fun. I know you did some tailgating at least on Saturday.
Yeah, I got down there fairly early and had a few beers and then came home and watched on TV. So it was a very enjoyable day.
Yeah, you even gave my wife a ride home, so that was very nice of you. Yeah. All right, it's time for us to play Yes, Nowhere, Maybe with Robbie Andreu. It's brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way. If you go there and say, hey, I listened to this podcast, you get free fries. Say that twice real fast.
Free fries. That's hard.
With your order. All right, number one, Robbie, on Yes, Nowhere, Maybe. You would root for Georgia against Miami if it comes to that in a playoff game, which you could see that happen very easily.
Yeah, Pat, I would probably say a maybe probably on that one. But that would be probably one of those games where you don't really like either team, where once the game starts, you kind of get a feel for who you're going to root for. So I would probably say maybe, and it would all depend on how I felt once the game got going. Then your true feelings come out when you start seeing and hearing what's going on the field.
I wanted to call you Saturday night and ask you who you were rooting for in Tennessee, Georgia, because I couldn't make up my mind.
Yeah,
I went back and forth,
Yeah, I was torn on that one too. So, yeah, I really never pulled for one over the other.
Yeah.
I was back and forth.
I kind of just rooted for whoever was behind, just to make it a good game. But, it was kind of a weird dynamic because, Tennessee's got one loss, so I'd like them to suffer a little more. And Georgia's at home, so I wouldn't. Yeah, they are suffering it right now.
Yeah.
Not as much as LSU fans, though. I think they may right now. LSU fans are in the misery index. They're not very happy with Brian Kelly, and they're really mad at him about, of course, all the things that happened on the field where he told the guy he was uncoachable.
I know. I mean, do you want to play for a guy like that, Pat? I mean, a lot of these great athletes. Do you want to play for a guy like that?
I talked about that in the opening segment about how there was a good point somebody made about, I think it was on radio on Sunday, about the difference in how Napier's handled adversity and how Brian Kelly's handled it. And that was, believe
Napier's
me,
been great, Pat.
Yeah.
I mean,
kudos
Napier's
to Napier.
gained a lot of respect around the country for the way he's held this team together and the way he's just managed himself in this team. Kudos to him.
Exactly. All right, number two on Yes, Nowhere, Maybe. Robbie, in your opinion, Florida turned the corner on Saturday morning, night, afternoon, whenever it was.
I'm going to say maybe on that one also, Pat, because they are turning the corner. I mean, I think it's a process that's been going on since maybe the Tennessee game, a game they could have won and carried over the Georgia game. Then, I'm going to discount what happened in Austin, Texas a few weeks ago because you're with a walk-on quarterback. Your secondary is decimated going into the game against a great passing team. So, that was a little step back. But then, Saturday night, it just shows you the turnaround is getting there. They're getting there. And this week's game is very important to keep that going because they do have momentum now. They are in the process of turning the corner, it looks like. And, I think people are kind of getting excited about what the future might hold with Lagway at quarterback. And you look at that game the other night, so many freshmen and sophomores that play huge roles on that team. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's what I kept saying. Like, I think people finally saw Napier's vision. They could kind of see it Saturday night. Now, again, they could get smoked by Ole Miss this week. We'll see what happens.
They could, yeah.
It's important that they have a play well in this game and keep it going the right way.
Yeah, and Pat, I think too the DJ Lagway influence in recruiting is going to be huge. I mean, guys are saying they want to play with this guy, so he's going to be huge for recruiting, I think.
And one guy said he wants to play behind him, Tramel Jones.
Yeah.
So
that's unbelievable.
Committed. So, all right, and finally, number three, Robbie, after this weekend, we realized something that we already knew. We both outkicked our coverage in marriage.
Yes, duh. Of course we did. I mean, Pat, our wives are younger than us, better looking than us.
Yep.
I mean, and then to put on the party they did for us Friday night at Ballyhoo was unbelievable. I mean, could we have come up with something like that for them? I don't know if I don't see it with all the pictures and the posters and just everything, and the people that came, including the head ball coach. It was just
head ball coach.
A night you'll remember for the rest of your life. I mean, it was unbelievable. So, yeah, we outkicked our coverage in a big way. We're very fortunate.
Well, and that's what my 70th birthday was the best one I've ever had. I thought it was going to be the worst one, but it ended up being the best one. But anyway, all right, Robbie, we'll let you go.
Okay, Pat, I'll see you later on.
All right, buddy. Okay, always great to have Robbie on. Let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Of course, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville firm here for your needs in family law or workers' compensation. Call or text Ken and Jennifer 24/7 at 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipke, nearly 50 years of combined legal experience and about to celebrate their 5th anniversary in January. And yes, Ken, I did get those 2 songs you sent me, and they were awesome. Rockin' in the Free World. I remember seeing him do that live on live on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. All right, let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 thing. And number 1 was that the boys were popping the corks last night down in Miami. I know my man Larry Zonka, Nat Moore, 2 guys I've been friends with off and on for different parts of my life. And some other guys were popping the corks because the Dolphins remain the only team to go undefeated after the Chiefs lost. And now you knew that Chiefs were probably going to lose a game because they were kind of lucking into some. Going to Buffalo, and again, Josh Allen made one of these unbelievable plays. This run, I can't remember how long it was, 26 yards, I think, and it was just incredible. It was a 3rd down run, too. So, hey, look, he was a better player. He was a better quarterback. Chiefs didn't play that well, but they still have a leg up, I guess, on the in terms of the, to be the host team for the playoffs. But they still got to solve some problems there. They're trying to figure out some things. And the worst part of it was Jawan Taylor got a huge holding call during that game that was like the dagger on 3rd down, or 4th down, actually, it was on. And they got in the 4th down. But anyway, he does get a lot of penalties on himself. That's number 1. So the Chiefs have a loss now, 9-1. We'll be okay. Let's go to number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And that is that Stan Drayton, who we've known around here. He was on Urban's staff, and nice guy as far as I know. He got fired yesterday at Temple. He got fired after an overtime win. Now, the overtime win was over Florida Atlantic, and they're really bad this year. So you got to think maybe they were like, I can't believe we had to go to overtime to win this game. But no, this has been built. His record's not been good there. Temple is one of the hardest jobs because anybody who goes there who has success is out right away. Adazio did. Jeff Collins, 2 former Gator coaches there that did. Stan Drayton's another one who was kicked out. But you either don't have success or you have some success and you move along. And that's the trouble with some of those schools like that. And some of the, we're going to get to a point really where if we get into this 60-team conference, super conference that I really think will come one day, where everybody else is just going to be playing for, kicks and giggles. And let's face it. And if you do a good job at that level, guess what? You're the next coach at Indiana because Signetti will go somewhere now. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, sorry, Stan. I mean, he seemed like a good guy when you were here, but you just struggled there. I mean, he was a running backs coach somewhere before he went to Temple. I want to say Texas. I think it was Texas, yeah. All right. Let's move on to number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And that was the bad news that I got yesterday in a blowout win that Detroit gets a lot, that Alex Anzalone is out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken forearm. Now, I'm wondering if it was the same forearm he broke, and I was there at that game, and not at the game Saturday, but because that was in Detroit, but in Arkansas when he broke his arm. In that case, he was I remember him, he was trying to hit a guy with his arm, and he got a broken arm out of it. And that really killed that team because he's a real leader on that defense. So really bad news for Detroit and for Alex, man. I love that guy. He's such a good player and good dude. So hopefully he can come back for the playoffs. Playoffs? Yes, the playoffs. All right, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let us move along to our Adams Ribco Gators of the weekend. And yes, as Coach Spurrier said, Gators of the weekend are all you. All of you fans that went. I'm not saying that if you're a fan, you didn't go, you're not a Gator of the weekend. Sure, you were sending positive vibes out. But the fans who were there, who made that electric place, a loud place, look, I don't know where to rank it, but it ranks. It's in the top 3 or 4. There's no doubt about it. Well, I want to talk to people on the radio today. Robbie actually is going to be doing the radio with me today. And I want to talk to them about because people in the stands, it depends on where you are, where you're sitting. Like if you're in the press box, all you hear sometimes is the opposing band, which is never good. But anyway, I will talk to them and see what they said about it. So that'll be cool. But anyway, you fans, get a game ball from me. You are the Adams Ribco Gators of the Week. And Adams Ribco is a place to go for ribs. And I think you guys may have broken some ribs cheering and yelling. When Jaden Ball ran that Campus USA Play of the Week, you guys are all like banging into each other. Hopefully you didn't hurt any ribs. All right, that is our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. Let's get Gators of the Week. Let's get to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Those of you who picked Florida are very happy that you did that in that game. So you got in because there were 2 options you had. I haven't really looked over them yet, but I will soon. I looked at them as they came in. Very simple one. This is a Thursday night game, so you got to be ready for this one. NC State at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech giving 9. Now, NC State's had a really bad year, surprisingly bad year. Georgia Tech's been pretty good. And there's some games they could have won and didn't win, but they're having a really good year. Brent Key's a really good coach. So we'll see who's going to win that game. But anyway, you got to give 9 points if you take Tech against NC State. That is our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Thanks to Kyle Cohen for not only breaking away from family, but he didn't break away. He brought his family, and that was great that we got to see him at the party Friday night at Ballyhoo. And thanks, of course, to Bill Reichert and Jackie Reichert for a great job that they did there. Again, one of our other sponsors, but I did want to say thank you to Kyle because that was he got there, and that was really cool to see him. When he walked in the door, I was stunned. A couple people that walked in the door, I was surprised to see there. It made me very happy. All right, let us move along to our Christine and Steve Wendig present the 12. Of course, Boss Hart Realtors Christine and Steve Wendig bring us the 12 every Monday. And these are the 12 teams that I would put in the playoff right now. Right now, as we speak, okay? And obviously a lot going to change. Yeah, I'd still have Oregon as a 1 seed. I'd put Texas as a 2 seed. That means I have Texas winning against A&M and then winning the SEC championship game. Now, that may not happen, but if it doesn't, we'll have to make adjustments. I've got Miami at 3. I still think Miami's going to win the SEC or the ACC. Although right now, the team I'm leaving out, you won't believe, but I think they're going to be left out of the thing tonight too. I've got Colorado at 4. I think Colorado's going to win that Big 12 championship. I don't think anybody can stop them right now. That offense is really good. At 5, I've got Ohio State. At 6, I got Indiana. Now, does this mean I think Indiana's beating Ohio State? No. It means I think Ohio State's better than Indiana, and that's where I would put them right now. We'll see what happens when that game is played this weekend. Notre Dame at 7. I still am waiting to see what Notre Dame can do down the stretch here. But again, they don't have to play a championship game. It makes it easier for them. Penn State at 8, and then we go big-time SEC. Alabama at 9, Ole Miss at 10, and Georgia at 11. Yes, Georgia has crept back into the rankings. Tennessee drops out. And you know who else does? SMU, because I've got Boise State at number 12. I still think they're going to get in. That BYU loss may help them. Again, I get so confused doing this, and I can't imagine how these guys are going to keep it all straight. And like when they show the reveal, you're always looking at it and you're like, wait, they're the 2 seed, but they're playing the playing game. It's very confusing. We'll all adjust this. This is kind of like the way they always have to explain to us the overtime rules. And I always go, come on, guys. Everybody knows them by now. Well, maybe some people don't. I'm not going to say that anymore because literally every time I've done one of these lists or just jotted them down, I've been crossing things out. And we'll see what happens. But that is brought to you by Christine and Steve Wending. We appreciate them for being sponsors of the 12, and we'll bring it to you every Monday. It is time for us to go to the Florida Surf Club Cool Dude of the Weekend, brought to you by the Florida Surf Club. Appreciate them for being a sponsor. We have a cool time with them, and we got a cool dude. Our cool dude of the week is the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week, Trey Smack. Also, he is the drummer for Green Day, isn't he? Oh, that's Trey Cool. Okay. Trey Smack is the what again? Now, again, cool dude because he came back from, don't forget, we were kind of blaming him a lot for that, what happened in Austin. Even though they lost 1,000 to whatever, he missed that early field goal, and it felt like it was a momentum killer. This time he didn't miss early field goals. He made all his field goals, especially the 55-yarder, a career long. He certainly is our Florida Surf Club Cool Dude of the Week. We appreciate them for being a sponsor. We also appreciate Hugh Cain, and it's time for our Hugh Cain Mayhem Moment. The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today. All right, well, this was the darndest thing I've ever seen. And first of all, great sack by the Gators to get in here. And this is a coverage sack. And they stripped Nussmeier. One of the two times they stripped it right to Emery, who's the offensive lineman. And then he fumbles the ball. Caleb Banks hits him and ends up recovering it. What a play. Now, I don't think they got a lot out of this, but it still was a great play. And it was a mayhem moment. And see, you can tell Brian Kelly's going, what? That's a mayhem moment out there. What's going on? But it certainly was unusual, you have to say. But again, another example of how good the coverage was and how good the pass rush was and how alert guys were to make big plays. So congratulations to everybody involved on that defense. I appreciate everything they did on Saturday night. The double fumble, as I'm calling it, is the Hugh Cain Mayhem moment. I'm sorry, Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem moment. I blanked out there for a minute. That's senioritis, I guess, there. All right, let us get to our Gainesville car wash, our Gallo car wash, Sponge of the Week. And our Sponge of the Week was a guy who pretty much caught everything. And that was Elijah Badger, who had an unbelievable game Saturday night. I think he was targeted 10 or 12 times and came up with almost all of them. There was nothing that I thought he should have caught. And certainly the two catches down the goal line, the two fade patterns over the shoulder, one way, the other way. DK got the one way, but he got the one the other way. They were just dimes, but they were certainly, you can't be a good quarterback without good receivers and without good protection. We all know that. But you've got to have guys make tough catches, and Elijah Badger was a sponge, man. He soaked up the ball all day long. So for Gallo Car Wash, he is our Sponge of the weekend. Let us wrap it up with our Swamp Games of the Weekend. Games of the Week, sorry. Again, a shout out to Ryan from the Swamp. The guy is unbelievable. Ryan and Kyle. I just can't thank them enough for the time we had Thursday night on my birthday. It was really special. And they made it special, and they made it work for us. I'm getting emotional. No, anyway, it was very nice. All right, let's get to our Swamp Games of the Week. And, of course, the Swamp is the place you got to go. That's where we will be Thursday, of course, doing our show there. We love doing the show there. It's a great time, and we went right from the show into a little party there, and we had a good time. So, and we'll be there Thursday, so if you want to come and see us out there. Let's get to our games. And Tuesday You have, I don't know, if you want to watch it, watch it. It's a chance to, if you want to negative root Jim McElwain or positive root him, either way. But Western Michigan is playing at Central Michigan, 7:30, ESPN2. Central Michigan, I think, is 3-7. I don't know. I wonder if he's in trouble about getting fired again. Anyway, Wednesday you have Ohio at Toledo, a little better game, 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Thursday, I mentioned the NC State-Georgia Tech game is 7 o'clock on ESPN. Hoops, Florida basketball, they play Tuesday against Florida A&M. That's on the Plus at 7 o'clock. So look forward to watching that game. Volleyball plays Wednesday at Auburn. And, of course, Florida has kind of gotten the ship right. They're now 19-5, 10-3 in the SEC. They won again Friday in 5 sets. They play Auburn at 7 o'clock. It's on the SEC network. So that'll be cool to watch that Wednesday night. And then also Tuesday, good basketball game, Purdue at Marquette, if you want to see that on FS1 at 9 o'clock. And finally, Wednesday night, Illinois at Alabama is at 9 o'clock on the SEC network. So there is no reason to ever be watching anything but sports. Now, I will say this. My daughter Jennifer, she was very impressed with my 3 TV setup. I will say that. And they spent a lot of time in that room watching football games and stuff with me. And every time she come back in there, she go, "You've got another game to watch?" That's what I love about sports. This is the greatest time of year. And it's certainly a good day to be a Florida Gator. Enjoy it all week. Be prepared for Ole Miss. We'll be back Thursday. Mick Hubert, again, will be joining us, the former voice of the Gators. But he is a voice. He certainly is one of the great voices of our time, and I look forward to talking to him on our 400th episode of another Dooley Noted podcast. Until the next time, for Titan MRI, for Meldon Law, for Zach Rothrock, I am Pat Dooley saying I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.